Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this episode, I talk to Nimmi Uday about designing experiences as a woman. Hi Nimmi, thank you for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Venkat. Thank you for having me over. I'm doing very well. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you in the podcast. Can you tell us a bit about yourself? What do you do? Where do you live, etc.?
All right. So I'm Nimmi. I live in Bangalore. I was born and brought up in Saudi. I spent 17 years of my life there and then I moved to Bangalore. I did my graduation here at NIFT, did my communication design, and then moved into the space of design for a very long time. At the heart of what I do, I design experiences. That could mean visual experiences through graphic and brand design, physical experiences through spaces and environment, human experiences where people come together, mostly to learn, reflect, and connect. So I'm a designer by education and educator by choice. I sometimes enjoy doing a little bit of strategy and brand storytelling as well. I also wear the hat of a marketeer at times, but my core focus is customer experience. I focus predominantly on how people feel, what they remember, and the story they walk away with. A large part of my work is centered around women as well, creating spaces, narratives, and experiences that's focused on learning and that support growth, confidence, and empowerment. These are the things that I focus most of my energy on.
That's a pretty interesting topic. It's an intersection of design and experience, either be about a person or about the spaces. Congratulations for settling in that area. I'm very curious to know about your specific work that relates to women. But before that, I would like to discuss about your childhood values that shaped the person you are right now. How did you choose design and experiences?
It's a very interesting question, Venkat. I think I am thinking quite a bit right now. So I grew up in Saudi. In context, when you look at Saudi as a country back in the day, women had very little visible power or agency. I studied in a girls' school. I had the opportunity to explore art quite a bit. I learned Bharatanatyam over there. I learned how to paint. I learned how to sketch. Creative aspects of my life was fairly nourished, which gave me the opportunity to understand that that's a space that I really enjoy being in. So when it came to deciding what I wanted to do in the future, I think around 10th standard, I decided that I want to get into the space of design. Then it was about figuring out what college and how do I get into it. Yeah, I think that's how I decided to get into the space of design. I had the opportunity to understand that creative arts made me happy. Creative arts was a way for me to possibly express anything, right? In a country where a lot of things were restricted, this was one of the ways that I could express. So that's possibly how I decided to go into the space of design.
Okay, great. So when did you come back to India and when did you start doing your course at NIFT?
I moved to India in 2009. All my life till then I spent in Saudi. 2009 I moved to India. I did my 4-year graduation at NIFT. Ever since I was in NIFT, I think I started work doing internships and all kinds of projects right from the college years. I would do with fashion shows and events, help with getting the manpower for costume change, spend quite a bit of time in the space of fashion when I was in college.
Okay, wonderful. Now let's talk about the work that you do for women. You mentioned a lot of things when you introduced yourself. You mentioned about design, you mentioned about spaces, you mentioned about experiences. So when it comes to women, after you moved to India, what is the work that you have started and how is it going right now?
When I moved to India and when I was in NIFT, I focused my energy on working on projects that were in the space of fashion, post which I got the opportunity to work with an organization that was focused on early years education. In that organization, most of the employed over there were women who were stepping back in the workforce. I think I've spent quite a bit of time working and spending time with women and seeing how women can support each other. In my schooling, I studied in a girls' school and then I came to NIFT and it was mostly women. When I started working in the early years space, again, I ended up spending a lot of time with women. And it really showed me how there's opportunity for women to find power the moment somebody else makes them feel like they're not alone. When women enable each other, things really shift, sometimes in very small ways and sometimes in huge ways. It's not really about fixing. It's not really about rescuing. It's just about holding space and sharing knowledge and saying you're not alone. And when that in itself happens, you can see shift. I think once I understood this aspect of enabling women, there was no going back. I think I realized that I do want to spend a lot of my time working in the space of enabling women in whatever way I can and in whatever way I choose to decide what enablement looks like. It could be in the form of art, it could be in the form of a tech platform, it could be in the form of experiences that I curate, it could be in the form of a small WhatsApp community that I have built. Just different ways of showing support.
And how do you choose which one to use at what point of time?
It depends, right? So over the years, I have built and facilitated learning programs. I've built communities and spaces where women can pause, reflect, upskill, especially women navigating career breaks and leadership journeys or life transitions. So this can be in the form of workshops. It can be in the form of short or long programs with peer communities where women ask for help, share knowledge, and grow together. I've also worked with organizations to create women-centric programs around leadership. So a lot of building programs for women and creating small spaces for women, creating events for women. These are the ways that I focus. There are multiple frameworks that's been created. My major umbrella thought process would be to ensure that during this period with me, they learn something about themselves or they remember something about themselves that they've not really focused their energy on.
How do you prompt them to figure out that they need to learn about themselves? Do you ask questions? How do you go about it?
Like, for example, if it's a learning program, one of my program is a LinkedIn learning program, which I really enjoy doing with women leaders. And when we have to fill up our LinkedIn profile, one of the activities that we spend almost an hour doing is figuring out what we find our strengths are and what are the key aspects of ourselves that we want to tell the world. Now, when I say this, it sounds very easy, but it's really not that easy to write about ourselves if we have to keep our professional experience aside without really saying that I am the GM of a so-and-so company. How else can I put myself out there? How else can I communicate what I can offer to the world? Now, that is an introspective activity that we work on. Now, that's one way of getting people to focus a little bit inward before we go outward. Similarly, when it's about creating experiences as well, there are prompts that I give through the time where there is a moment taken to just sit with ourselves and think, oh, wait, do I know about this? Do I know enough about myself? Is there something that I want to know? I think that moment, this busy life that we all lead, it's sometimes the moments that we miss out. And if we are able to hold on to those few minutes every day where we can just step back and feel, makes a whole lot of difference.
Great. So, when it comes to introspection, is there any psychology involved or is it pure introspection at a broader level?
I think in most of the work I do, it is about understanding the human psyche and how people function and what aspects of their fears and what aspects of their aspirations are coming through. Because I have been in the space of understanding people and their struggle, I put it together for me to be able to ask the right kind of questions, which will help them take a minute and think. Sometimes that's all we need. There are aspects of psychology that is used, but it is fairly lived and learned experiences.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. You have been talking to a lot of women and you have been actively working with women on a daily basis. What are some of the challenges women are facing these days that you come to know about, and how do you address them?
There are a lot of challenges women deal with. First of all, we do live in a world where women and men and all the other genders are not treated equally. So chasing equality is something most women struggle with. And up to what extent can one chase equality? Up to what extent can one dream? This is something that everyone struggles with. I remember doing this activity a couple of years ago where we walked down Church Street in Bangalore and we asked women, what does freedom look like for Women's Day? We went around asking different generations of women what freedom looks like. Kids who came with mothers. There was this one grandmother, granddaughter, and a niece. Beautiful, beautiful bunch of people that we interviewed, and we asked them, what does freedom look like to you? And what is it that they want when they mean that they live in a country that is free, where they can be. And all of them had, at least most of them had, same answer, that they wanted to be able to walk down the road without feeling fear at any given point in time. They should have the same privilege that men do, to be able to walk out at 10:30 in the night and not look behind and be very cognizant about the footsteps that you're hearing and if there are any cars coming behind. This is a very big fear that most of us have, especially when we live in the city. This is one of the basic fear that we have. From there to on a daily basis, the kind of challenges that we deal with, it's quite a bit. I think I will take hours if I have to mention few, but I thought this would be the easiest right now.
How are you planning to scale your work, reach more people, address more communities? Are you training someone to do this? What are your future plans?
So right now I'm building a few things that all come from the same intention, which is creating spaces that support women, memory, and more intentional ways of living, right? So one is an HR platform exclusively for women, focused on both work from home and work from office opportunities. So we have already built this platform and we're doing the final touch-ups for it. So it's about creating access to dignified work, flexibility, and choice, right? Especially navigating different life stages. Alongside, there is another project that I'm working with. It is a storytelling and archival project that holds anonymous stories of women's lived experiences that throws light on abuse. It's about giving form and dignity to stories that have never been spoken about, have been silenced, allowing them to exist safely and truthfully. So that is one thing that I'm working on. Other things that I'm working on are experiential spaces where we design spaces for people to slow down. We design spaces where we preserve family stories and cultural memories while also functioning as places for people to gather, like a homestay, gallery, library, bookstores, etc. So these are the few things that I'm working on right now. I'm focusing my energy on building a few of these while I also take on a little bit of training whenever I have the opportunity to train women leaders.
Okay, sounds good. But to formalize this, do you have plans to start academics on this, where the people who got trained by you might join your organization and start contributing in some way?
The kind of training that I do, Venkat, focuses more on shining light on themselves, right? So if I'm training a woman for an hour or an hour and a half, I am giving them tools for them to use later. And these tools are focused on themselves and the tools that they require to put themselves out in the world. Once you have access to this, I'm pretty sure you will share it with a bunch of other people because I know the women whom I have trained. So my team were filled with women who are stepping back into the workforce as well. So the challenges that most women who step back in the workforce face with is that they lose confidence and they forget a little bit about themselves, right? Not really a little bit, quite a bit. So through their time of working with me for a returnship program and then later joining as a teammate, they have learned to understand themselves better. They have learned certain tools to get themselves to be a little bit more grounded. They have acquired new skills in the process. Once they were done with their returnship program and they started working with me, they got to a space of training women like them because now they have the tools. So anyone who spends enough time to understand more about themselves with me, they get to a space of being able to train. For one-off instances, we always have catch-up conversations so that they understand more about themselves. The energy is focused on helping them understand themselves so that they can help other women understand themselves better.
Okay, sounds good. But to formalize this, do you have plans to start academics on this, where the people who got trained by you might join your organization and start contributing in some way?
More than an academy, what I think will happen would be women who want to join forces to enable other women in different spaces, right? Like the HR platform that I told you, which is going to be called Hire. Now, that is a platform which will require training. We are looking at enabling women women who are at home and who's looking for opportunities but can't really step out to do the job, enabling them with work opportunities. When we are doing this kind of service where it's a little bit of matchmaking as well, we need to ensure that the team, the employees who decide to take on a project are trained enough to be able to do it as well. So there's a lot of upskilling that will happen there as well. That is when I already have a team of trainers, educators that I'm affiliated with. So as and when there are training experiences that require different kinds of expertise, I get them on board and we do it together. That is the kind of growth with respect to educators being a community with me.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing the details about your work. Now let's shift gears and talk about the fun side. What are your hobbies and interests apart from work?
I love noticing the little things in nature, so I like creating stuff with nature, creating spaces inspired by nature, artwork inspired by nature. I occasionally enjoy writing, especially when I feel strongly about stuff. I truly enjoy reading. My parents live in Kochi, so I visit Kerala quite often. So
Great. And what kind of books do you read?
different kinds of books, to be honest. I read a little bit of fiction, not a lot, but a little bit on philosophy, a little bit to understand Indian mythology, a little bit spiritual reading and different schools of thoughts. That's something that I'm very interested in.
What's your current interest and the school of thought on the spirituality side?
I have been exploring conversations on near-death experiences and different universes that exist at the same time. There's been this author that has caught my interest and I have been reading her books very fast, I must say. Her name is Dolores Cannon. She writes some interesting books. She is a therapist who does past life regressions. She has collated the snippets and stories that she's gotten from all her past life regressions to talk about how the spiritual world could possibly be like a percentage of it and help our minds that's got a whole lot of limitations to see differently.
Wow. Tell me more about the different universes that exist. What's the theory behind it?
Well, I'm nobody to really speak for it, but from the books that I have read, there are, of course, different schools of thoughts, but the similarity that I have seen is when they say that with every choice you make, you build a new universe. It depends on your actions in a particular situation, and that many universes can exist at the same time. The past, present, and the future all is now. It is only about now. There is no past, there is no future, it is now.
I wish we could say the same thing about the stock market.
Well, you asked me about the different schools of thoughts that I've been reading. This is what they say. They say that time is a concept that human beings have constructed and now we are prisoners to that concept.
Sounds a bit like quantum theory, which states that there are multiple states that exist at the same time. You just land on one state in which you decide to land on.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. Again, it's all different schools of thoughts, right? I mean, we are all here to live a life to learn something. So at least I personally believe that I don't know enough to ever decide this is the only way I can see life and the world. I need to know more and I may be wrong. The opportunity for me to be wrong is high, to be right is high, but there is a chance for me to be wrong. So keep my eyes open to different ways of living, different ways of understanding what this entire life is about, right? The entire journey of us spending time creating these experiences for ourselves, trying to achieve something in life. Where is it all going? So
it's really comforting to know that, it's just the present and there is no past and the future. That's really comforting to me. Yesterday I did a podcast recording and we talked about similar things, and I figured experience is all that matters at the end of the day, because whatever is written or whatever someone else says, it's finally your experience that's the truth for you, right? Great. Let's talk about the societal issues that you care about. You already mentioned about women empowerment. Other than that, are you actively working on anything else?
I think more than women empowerment, I think I would like to say that I truly believe that inclusivity should be a non-negotiable. Inclusivity means having the equal opportunity to avail all that the country has to offer. With that, I would mean women, I would mean queer people, I would mean neurodivergent folks, I would mean a lot of us who have to really fight to be included or seen the right way just because we are living lives differently. That is something that I truly believe in. So all my work has focused on how can we be more inclusive? How can we be more accepting? How can we be more non-judgmental? How can we focus on giving and receiving love and less of hatred? So yes, inclusivity, that is something that I'm really passionate about.
It's pretty interesting because I did a podcast with someone who defined feminism as standing up for the underrepresented and weaker sections of the society. I had the opportunity to do podcasts with a blind person as well as someone who runs schools for neurodivergent children.
I think everyone should feel like they belong. I think everyone deserves to feel like they belong. And they shouldn't, have to fight for it. We all share the world. I mean, does not just belong to a certain sect of people. We were born here, we belong here. It is only right that we feel like we belong here. Creating frameworks, creating structures, creating systems that enable this is possibly the way for us to move forward and live happily.
Right. Let's hope that happens. Thank you so much for making time and appearing in our podcast. I wish you all the best in your life and whatever you aspire to do. Please take care and bye for now.
Thank you so much, Venkat. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
That was a great podcast with Nimmi Uday. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.